What if the next major earthquake wasn't entirely born beneath our feet, but instead whispered down from the heart of the sun? Right now, staring directly at Earth is a monstrous tear in the sun's outer atmosphere, what scientists call a coronal hole. It's not a rare sight, but this is different. It's ancient, it's massive, and it's returning, for the 8th time, rotating into direct alignment with our planet like clockwork. The last time this solar giant faced Earth, it triggered a chain reaction of quakes around the globe. Myanmar shook with a 7.7 magnitude tremor. Tonga followed. The world trembled, not from chaos in its crust, but possibly from forces far above. Geophysicist Stefan Burns has been tracking this solar wound. He's sounded the alarm. The same coronal hole is back, and it could mean another wave of powerful seismic unrest. But why? How could something so distant, so alien, influence the most destructive forces on Earth? The answer may lie in a hidden dance between solar wind, plasma waves, and the electromagnetic heartbeat of our planet. When these high-speed solar winds slam into Earth, they don't just paint the skies with auroras. They ripple through our magnetic field, disturb the ionosphere, and, some believe, spark powerful energy shifts deep within the lithosphere. Today, we dive headfirst into this mystery. How do solar holes unleash cosmic storms? What patterns connect them to deadly quakes? And are we standing on the edge of another planetary tremor? This isn't just space weather. This could be the warning tremor before the quake. So stay with us, because in the next moments, we'll unravel the science, the patterns, and the sobering possibilities that Earth's next great shake might start with a whisper from the sun. Imagine a giant doorway torn open on the face of the sun, not glowing, not blazing, but dark, cold, empty, as if a piece of space itself had been carved out of the sun's surface. That's a coronal hole, and while it may look quiet and still, it's anything but. From this shadowed wound pours a stream of invisible fire, solar wind traveling millions of miles, with enough force to rattle the very bones of our Earth. Coronal holes aren't new, but this is different. It has returned 8 times now, 8 rotations across the Earth-facing side of the sun, stretching all the way back to October 2024. Each time it reappears, it grows, wider, darker, stronger, like something building toward an inevitable release. Geophysicist Stefan Burns has been tracking it closely. His quiet warnings have grown louder with each pass, because every time this coronal hole faces us, something strange begins to unfold, not just in the skies, but deep beneath our feet. Last time, during its 7th rotation, Earth was hit with a high-speed solar wind. A G2 geomagnetic storm followed. And then? The Earth trembled. A magnitude 7.7 earthquake devastated Myanmar. Powerful quakes struck Tonga and several other parts of the world. It was as if invisible threads had been tugged loose, shaking the globe from within. Now, the coronal hole is back, slightly smaller perhaps, but stretching farther sideways, creeping toward the sun's southern pole. Stefan warns that this may lead to a longer, more drawn-out solar wind event, meaning Earth could be under its influence for even longer. But here's the chilling part. How can something on the sun, a dark, gaping hole millions of miles away, have any effect on earthquakes here? Is it coincidence? Or is there a deeper connection science is only beginning to uncover? The answers lie buried in particle data, geomagnetic charts, and plasma flow readings most people never think about. But if Stefan's pattern holds true, then the sun may be whispering a warning again, and the Earth may soon answer with a rumble. Beneath our feet, the Earth holds memories, layers of pressure, locked tension, ancient scars, and sometimes it remembers all at once. In the days after the 7th rotation of the coronal hole, something stirred deep within the Earth's crust. It wasn't just one quake. It was a global chorus, tectonic plates groaning in unison. Myanmar was just the loudest scream. A 7.7 magnitude shock tore through the land, killing thousands and leaving cities trembling. But that was only the beginning. Tonga shook with a 7.0. More than a dozen other quakes above magnitude 6 rippled across the Pacific, the Indian Ocean, the Americas. It was like a chain reaction, one plate shift waking another, in a domino effect of buried violence. For nearly 2 weeks the world felt uneasy. Maps lit up with red dots. Sirens blared. Scientists scrambled to understand why so many powerful quakes were happening. And why now? Stefan Burns saw the pattern. The seismic burst came directly after Earth was struck by the solar wind stream released from that 7th rotation of the coronal hole. But it wasn't just the wind. It was the drop in solar wind density to anomalously low levels, sometimes below 0.2 particles per cubic centimeter, when it's normally 5 to 10. Think about that. The sun, our constant giver of light and warmth, had sent us a stream of energy so oddly depleted that it seemed to change the behavior of our planet. What if Earth's crust, ever so subtly, responds to these shifts in the solar environment? What if deep down, where molten rock churns and fractures grow, the planet listens to space? This isn't some far-fetched theory. There's mounting data linking high-speed solar wind from coronal holes with upticks in global seismicity, especially quakes above magnitude 7. It's not just one event, it's many, repeating, predictable. And if this 8th rotation proves anything, it's that the connection might be more than coincidence. The Earth remembers, the Sun speaks, and between the two, a hidden language is unfolding. One that could change how we understand both solar physics and the shaking ground beneath our homes. Imagine this, a giant dark scar slowly turning toward Earth, not once, but 8 times. Since October 2024, a single coronal hole has returned again and again, each time growing, stretching, evolving like a living shadow on the surface of the Sun. We're now at its 8th rotation, and it's bigger than ever, wider, deeper, and positioned to once again face Earth with unsettling precision. This isn't just solar weather, it's a repeating cycle, a beat, a pulse from the heart of our solar system. With each return, this massive coronal hole has brought with it a surge of high-speed solar wind, often accompanied by geomagnetic storms. During the 7th rotation, it triggered a G2-class geomagnetic storm, enough to disturb satellites, navigation systems, and power grids. But even more unnerving were the days that followed. The Myanmar quake, the seismic unrest around the Ring of Fire, and the eerie feeling that something cosmic was touching the Earth in ways we don't fully understand. Now, here we are again, rotation number 8. Except this time, the hole looks different. Less vertical, more lateral. It's spreading sideways, stretching across the Sun's face like it's reaching for us. Scientists like Stefan Burns are watching closely because this change in structure could mean a longer-lasting impact when the solar wind stream connects with Earth, possibly extending the duration of geomagnetic disturbances, and with it, the risk of seismic consequences. And the timing? It's converging right around April 22nd to 23rd, a window when this coronal hole will be directly Earth-facing, meaning any solar wind it sends will have a direct line to our magnetosphere. But here's the part that gives chills. Out of all the significant magnitude 7+ earthquakes in recent memory, most occurred within days of these solar wind impacts from this very same coronal hole. Coincidence? Or a cosmic rhythm we're only just beginning to hear? Like waves crashing against the shore, this solar phenomenon is carving patterns into the fabric of our planet's behavior. The more we observe, the clearer the pattern becomes. But the deeper question remains. What happens if we ignore the rhythm? What happens if the next wave is even bigger? As the solar wind reaches Earth, it doesn't just brush past our atmosphere, it penetrates, interacts, and stirs forces deep within. We're not talking science fiction. We're talking geomagnetic storms. Fluctuations in Earth's magnetic field so intense they ripple through the planet like invisible tremors before the real ones strike. After the seventh rotation of this recurring coronal hole, Earth experienced a wave of earthquakes that scientists couldn't ignore. One of the most devastating, a magnitude 7.7 in Myanmar, didn't just rattle buildings. It left behind collapsed homes, broken lives, and questions that still haunt the global geophysical community. But that wasn't an isolated event. A 7.0 in Tonga, a series of high-magnitude 6s in clusters around tectonic boundaries, all unfolded in the days immediately surrounding the coronal hole's geomagnetic impact. It was as if the Earth's crust was responding, not just to internal stress, but to something from above, something cosmic. This wasn't guesswork, it was pattern. A measurable increase in global seismic energy output, lasting nearly 2 weeks. That's not normal tectonic movement. That's a burst, a global shift in geological behavior that started with the sun's wind battering our magnetic shield. Here's where it gets even stranger. During that period, solar wind density dropped to astonishing lows, less than 1 particle per cubic centimeter, sometimes dipping below 0.22. For context, that's like draining an ocean and replacing it with a whisper of air. When density collapses like that, it changes the behavior of plasma around Earth. And plasma, as we're beginning to understand, is one of the keys to unlocking the connection between solar energy and seismic events. When the high-speed stream hit us last time, it was like the planet took a deep breath and then exhaled through earthquakes. So, what happens next? If this 8th rotation delivers another powerful solar wind burst, and if the conditions repeat, low density, high speed, sustained impact, then history suggests we could be looking at another seismic crescendo. Perhaps not in the same places, perhaps stronger, perhaps more widespread. The data tells us this isn't just speculation, it's a warning, and the planet may already be listening. If you trace the tremors of the Earth long enough, you eventually stop looking only beneath your feet and begin looking up. What if the sun, with its shifting moods and magnetic storms, was quietly choreographing the movements of our planet's crust? What if the seemingly random quakes that devastate cities and alter coastlines are not just geological inevitabilities, but part of a larger, celestial rhythm? Geophysicist Stefan Burns noticed something most of us would miss: a synchronized dance between sunspot activity and global earthquake energy. A graph, simple yet profound, revealed an inverse relationship. As sunspot numbers fall, earthquake energy rises, over and over again. This correlation was especially stark in early 2025. When sunspots faded, the Earth growled. Bursts of seismic energy erupted. Powerful magnitude 6 and 7 quakes followed those lulls in solar activity, like thunder following lightning. But why? The answer may lie in the ionosphere, that thin veil of charged particles in Earth's upper atmosphere. Sunspots release intense X-ray flux that supercharges this layer, increasing its ionization. But when that flux diminishes, something shifts. The ionosphere begins to relax, discharging energy. And what happens in the sky doesn't stay there. That energy funnels downward, into the crust, through electromagnetic currents, into the lithosphere. And in the silence of that cosmic transfer, deep faults may be pushed past their breaking point. Scientists call them telluric currents, electric currents running through rock, soil, and minerals. These aren't just passive flows. They're active agents, changing how pressure builds along fault lines. And the lower the solar wind density, the greater the discharge gradient from sky to Earth. Even the Earth's natural heartbeat, the Schumann resonances, low-frequency electromagnetic waves that encircle the globe, begin to fluctuate in tandem with solar changes. As these resonances shift, They may serve as signals or warnings of what's building deep within. This isn't fringe theory. It's a frontier of geophysics, a blurry line where space weather becomes seismic weather. And we're now approaching another moment of truth. If the solar wind drops again, if the ionosphere begins to hum, and those telluric currents surge through the veins of the Earth, will it crack again? Will another city shake before sunrise? Or are we already too late? Patterns. The universe is made of them. Some are loud, others whisper beneath layers of noise. But every so often a pattern emerges so clearly, so unshakably, that ignoring it feels like turning your back on a storm you know is coming. Let's talk about the data. In 2024, Earth experienced a string of high-magnitude earthquakes, nearly all of them shadowed by coronal holes on the Earth-facing side of the Sun. These weren't coincidences. They were correlations backed by evidence. A 7.6 quake in Japan on January 1st? A massive coronal hole sat directly in the geo-effective zone just days before. A 7.4 in Taiwan on April 2nd? Once again, a yawning coronal rift stared straight at Earth from the solar equator. A 7.4 in Chile on July 19th? Another geo-effective coronal hole. Even the 7.1 in the Philippines and 7.0 in Russia bore the solar signature. Only one major quake, the 7.2 in Peru, didn't align with a coronal hole. But even that day, Earth was experiencing a G4-level geomagnetic storm, one of the most intense space weather events of the year. Coincidence or consequence? These aren't isolated incidents. The seismic bursts align with the arrival of high-speed solar wind streams, blasting from those holes, distorting Earth's magnetosphere, and potentially activating subterranean stress points. In fact, when solar wind density dropped anomalously low during the 7th rotation of the coronal hole, the Earth responded with a weeks-long global seismic swarm, culminating in the devastating 7.7 magnitude quake in Myanmar that claimed thousands of lives. This isn't just about numbers on a graph. It's about life, death, and warning signs written in solar fire. The Earth remembers. Its crust holds stress like a clenched jaw, waiting for just the right nudge from above to release it all at once. And now, as the 8th rotation of this monster coronal hole approaches its Earth-facing peak, we're forced to ask, are we on the brink of another seismic crescendo? This isn't speculation, it's a pattern. And patterns, once seen, can't be unseen. Right now, this very moment, Earth may be standing on the edge of another chapter written in stone and fire. The 8th rotation of the massive coronal hole is now staring directly at us. It has lost a bit of its northern stretch, yes, but it's grown wider across the southern face, expanding its grip on the solar surface like a shadow crawling across the sky. And this time, it's even more complex. Portions of it are still rotating into view, meaning we don't yet know the full extent of its reach. We do know one thing. It's big, possibly the largest it's ever been. And history has a habit of echoing itself. The high-speed solar wind from this coronal hole is expected to slam into Earth around April 22nd to 23rd. When that happens, we could see another G1 or G2 geomagnetic storm, and while that may sound technical or benign, these storms are often the quiet curtain raisers to something far more dramatic. The kind of global seismic burst we've seen before. Magnitude 6s and 7s could cluster once more. Fault lines that have remained locked in tense silence might finally shift. Subduction zones could lurch awake. From the deep trenches of the Pacific to the trembling coasts of South America or the restless plates near Japan. Pressure has been building, and this coronal hole may be the final trigger. But this isn't fear-mongering. This is preparation, awareness, because science isn't just about forecasting, it's about paying attention, listening when the Earth whispers through data, watching when the sun sends messages in waves of plasma and light. Even the face etched in the solar surface, a smile to some, a warning to others, seems to mock our attempts to predict its true intent. So we wait, with satellites watching, with seismographs humming, with hope. Because if this is the calm before the storm, then knowledge is our shelter. The story unfolding between the sun and earth is not one of randomness. It's a dialogue written in ancient forces. Plasma, magnetism, resonance, and gravity. They dance across space, weaving invisible threads between solar storms and seismic shudders beneath our feet. We've seen it, rotation after rotation, these massive coronal holes yawning wide on the sun's surface, launching streams of charged particles across millions of miles. And each time they reach us, something stirs. The atmosphere ripples, the magnetic field warps, and deep within the Earth's crust, tensions rise. Coincidence? Maybe. But the data speaks clearly. From Japan to Myanmar, from Chile to Vanuatu, high-magnitude earthquakes have lined up with solar events like pages from a cosmic journal. We're not just seeing patterns, we're feeling them. So what can we do? First, stay informed. These correlations matter. They're not just curiosity, they're clues, tools, warnings. Second, stay grounded, literally. In times of electromagnetic chaos, your nervous system, your sleep, even your emotional stability can feel the storm. Root yourself in nature, in stillness, in awareness, and finally, stay humble. The sun is not just a ball of fire in the sky. It is the pulse of our solar system, and we are intricately linked to it in ways science is only beginning to understand. As April 22nd and 23rd approach, we may once again be reminded that we are not separate from the cosmos, but a living, breathing part of it. And maybe, just maybe, the Earth is listening to the sun too. Thank you for walking this journey with us. Stay safe, stay aware, and as always, keep looking up.